Actually, the inspiration actually came from an email I was doing back and forth with Russell. We were discussing what I was doing with myself.
Russell Simmons?
Yeah, Russell Simmons. We were discussing what I was doing with myself at the present time, which was about 2 years ago, what I was doing. And I was actually doing what I did for him, which was public relations, but for the state of New Jersey, I was a representative for the state doing public relations. And he asked me, what else am I doing with myself? And he kind of threw it out there that, you know, you have so much going on, why don't you do more than what you're just doing? And I sat and thought about it for about 24 hours and just, it kept sitting in the back of my mind, replaying back and forth. What does he mean by this? What is he, you know, trying to tell me, but he's not really telling me? And the next day it hit me, and I sent him a text and I said, Russell, what do you think about me writing about my life, about a book regarding myself, which is geared towards, you know, people who need guidance, young adults, college students, high school students, anybody who maybe has a rough day that, you know, is looking for a little, picking up a little motivation. And he replied with, I love it. And then he said, tell me more. And basically I went into more detail about what each chapter was going to be about. And it just hit me right then and there that I knew that there was a bigger purpose for me than just doing public relations. And I think Russell always saw that in me for the 6 years that I worked for him. He always saw that there was a bigger purpose for me than just doing the public relations aspect of it. Actually, I was very blessed to be around a lot of people who influenced me and inspired me to do what I'm doing today. Russell Simmons, working with him and traveling with him, with Reverend Ron, traveling with him as well for years and seeing the way that they interact with their fans, the way that they're so loyal to their fans and so humble. You know, Rev Ron used to always preach to me, don't look for a blessing, be a blessing. And it became such a habit that I just want to try to give as much as possible. So it always sits in the back of my mind, don't look for a blessing, be a blessing. And Rev and Russell were perfect examples of it. Basically about my life, transformations and transitions that I took, about who I am and who I was. There's a few things that people don't know about me, and one of them is I used to be overweight. I used to be 262 pounds with 40% body fat. So I was a pretty big kid. I was teased a lot about my weight, about the gap in between my teeth, my ears, everything. I mean, it kind of got to me after a while when you hear so many jokes about being overweight that it just kind of just, you know, suppresses your attitude, and you don't really want to socialize with anybody. You're really negative. My weight became who I was. I was negative. So when I went from that transition to losing weight, I became an international model for Russell, for Fat Farm. I've been in magazines like XXL, Men's Fitness, Stuff Magazine, Maxim Magazine, BET Rip the Runway. I've done a lot of stuff. I've been blessed to do it. So the book surrounds that portion of it. It surrounds the part where I was actually homeless. You know, for about 2 months I was sleeping on a park bench. And it's basically about how this kid went from sleeping on a park bench to waking up in the Four Seasons Resort, you know, working for the godfather of hip hop without any college degree. You know, so it bases around that, going through a child divorce, 25-year marriage between my parents at the age of 13. How did I overcome that? You know, it's a roller coaster. That's the best way to put it. It's a roller coaster about different things that happened in my life. You know, when I was at the very, very bottom, you know, what I did to get out of those situations, and how did I overcome them mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So the book is about that journey. The moment I actually felt for the first time ever that God was on my side. And that's chapter 4. I believe it's chapter 4, yeah. So chapter 4 is just like, whoa, that's all I'm gonna say. It's just, that's my favorite one. You know, at the end of the day, you gotta do what you wanna do to get what you wanna get. So you have to keep your eyes on the prize, like they say. Just keep going, keep trying. You know, if the door closes, look for a window. Don't look for the other door to open. If you see a window open, jump through the window. You know, but the one thing is you can't give up. And that's what I try to preach in this book. I try to just, you know, let my downfalls, my mistakes, and what I've overcome, try to get to you guys as readers. You know, that at the end of the day, no matter how long of a dark journey you got, the sun is going to come up one day. The only time you fail is when you stop trying. So at the end of the day, stop using other people for excuses. Stop, you know, looking for ways out of it. If you want it, at the end of the day, do it. That's all it is. You know, you got to just stay focused. And when you lose doubt, you know, and you start losing that motivation, you have to go back a few steps, reset your mind and think what it is that you really want, and is it worth it? And if it's worth it, the next morning you'll get up, you're gonna feel good about what you're doing. And that's all it is to it. Just keep trying. Eventually, it'll pop off. Promise you, eventually it'll pop off.